Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to episodes 3 and 4 of Season 4 of My Hero Academia. So yeah, sorry for being late on the episode 3 reaction and now only getting to episode 4 as well. Just with everything, I wasn't able to get to them before. But yeah, we're getting to them now. We're doing both in one video, and I'm excited. Episode 2 left off on some very good notes. It really kicked things into overdrive with this season, with Overhaul and everything, and Big Sis Mag's death. But it also introduced Sir MightEye, the former sidekick of All Might, and Izuku is going to try and take his not extra lessons. What is it called? The work study? Yeah, work study. He's going to try to do his work study there. But according to Mirio, he has to make MightEye laugh first, because MightEye takes laughter in high regard. So Izuku's idea is to impersonate All Might, but MightEye initially sees that apparently as ridicule. So interesting to see where this is going to go. I honestly don't know. Now, I think I said it in the past redirects and just general thoughts about where the season's going and all. I don't know too much. All I know is really that Overhaul. I don't know why the name escaped me. I had just said it. I know Overhaul's going to be big this season. That's pretty much it. I don't know how. I also know about a connection with two characters that is coming up. I found that out actually at Youmacon. Unfortunately, it wasn't something I was trying to. It just kind of happened. So unfortunately, I did find out. I don't know like the full connection. I just know that they have a connection, which I kind of could have guessed on, but oh well. It's not a big deal. It's not like big spoilery details. But yeah. So I know very little bits. I know that there's a character named Fat Gum coming up. But again, I just don't know details. And that's the most important thing. Yeah, I just don't know exactly where this is going to go. I'm very excited to find out because, yeah, it's just, this series continues to impress. The first 2 episodes impressed. I just watched the dub for the first episode with my father and brother because they watch it. It's now on Toonami and all. So we just watched it, and I really like the English voice for Taneo Tokida from the first episode, the reporter. And I just still really like Tokida. Like, he's just a really fun, cool character. And I like the story they did with him in that first episode. I think, again, that he's like a filler character, but still. Yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. Like I said, we are doing 2 episodes today to catch up, and we'll kind of go from there. In the meantime, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll just get this started. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. When I first started watching My Hero Academia in 2016, the first episode didn't hook me in. I thought it was good, but it didn't like grab me like other anime at that point had. But it did leave off on a cliffhanger, enough of one to make me want to see where it went next. And so when I watched the second episode of that first season, it completely flipped my entire opinion on the show. The first episode didn't impress me. The second episode impressed me to such a degree that I basically instantly became a fan. The moment at the end of the second episode when All Might is telling Izuku that he too can become a hero. The moment of validation is so powerful that even to this day, when I watch that scene over in the second episode, I still cry. It still gets to me. In season 3, when All Might used the United States of Smash against All for One, and then told Izuku it was his turn on camera for everyone to see, and even though most people misconstrued it, but still, that was the second moment in the show that was truly that special, that big. Like, there were other moments, like in season 1, 2, and 3, even before that point, that were like notable moments. But that was the second moment in this show that was that big, that had that much just intense emotion behind it, that felt like it was something that really stood out compared to everything else in the show. And that's, again, not saying that everything else in the show is bad by any means. It's just saying that it was a standout moment that really hammered this show in as being as good as it is. And I mean, that was the moment in season 3 that actually made this my favorite anime of all time for the time being. Obviously, until Carol and Tuesday happened. And now this season, in its 4th episode, has had another one of those moments. When All Might and Izuku are talking at the end of episode 4, after the entire backstory and everything, Izuku showing his resolve, All Might acknowledging it, and the fist bump and everything. Just the way the scene was shot, the lighting, the just detail on both of the characters, the soundtrack, the musical score, all of that, even the voice acting, was calling back for me to that moment from the second episode of this show. Especially the lighting. It was calling back to that for me and made me remember that moment that I fell in love with this show. The intensity, the emotion, the power behind that scene, behind the voice actors' performances. I was doing my damnedest not to cry. Because I was on the verge of losing it. Let's just put it that way. And even now I'm tearing up just talking about it. It's one of those moments that not only just stands out amongst everything else in the show, but it's one of those moments where everything that is put into this show, once again, the lighting, the animation, the art, the voice acting, the score, the everything is all coming together perfectly. It's not animation Sakuga. It's nothing like you would see in One Punch Man Season 1 in terms of that. But in my eyes, it's more impressive than any amount of animation Sakuga could be. When a show can do that, can elicit that much just emotional pull, can make you that invested in a single moment to the point where it nearly or does bring you to tears. That is something special. That is something that truly matters. And it's not just for anime, it's for anything that can do that. So I firmly believe that this was the third of those big My Hero moments that continue to prove why this show is one of the greatest anime of all time. And definitely my second favorite of all time. It was that impactful for me. But moving on to the rest of these episodes. So, we picked up in episode 3 where episode 2 left off. Izuku is trying to get Sir MightEye to accept him for the work study. And MightEye is very strict on this kind of stuff, especially because of the balance he already has at his agency with Bubble Girl and Mirio. So he challenges Deku and tells him, if you can take this stamp from my hand and stamp the form yourself, I will let you in. Don't worry about what happens to this room. Do whatever you need to do. The problem is Sir MightEye's quirk is foresight. He can basically see the future of anyone he touches and locks eyes with. He does specifically have to do both of those things, though. But because he did it with Izuku, he could see every single move Izuku was going to do. But Deku noted that. He knew that. So he tried to use it to his advantage, using a plan to scatter papers and stuff around to kind of throw him off, because it's like, oh, he could only see the future of the person he touched and locked eyes with. So the papers, he wouldn't be able to tell where they're going to be and everything. It didn't help, but it was a good idea. And throughout the fight, we can see that Sir is basically trash-talking Deku, and he's basically telling him, oh, you're not good enough. You can't just rely on your power and stuff. And it's kind of going back to what we find out about how he and All Might kind of fell apart. I think most of Sir MightEye's issues with Izuku has to do with his arguments with All Might. But we'll get into that. So, in the end, Sir MightEye realizes, though, even though Izuku couldn't get the stamp away from him, he realizes that every single one of those moves that Izuku's doing, jumping around the room, rushing around and everything, he never once messed up anything with All Might on it. He didn't once step on any posters or anything. And Sir MightEye seemed to respect that level of control and, well, foresight to be able to do that. And he accepted Izuku, but as Izuku kind of points out, it's at least mostly to try and prove that Mirio would be a better choice for the quirk. So he does accept Izuku, though, and while he and Bubble Girl are watching the Chie Hisekai hideout, which isn't really much of a hideout per se, because it's out in the open, we have Izuku going out with Mirio on patrol. And they end up coming across Overhaul. Which, as I said in the reaction, I did not expect that to happen this soon. I did not expect them to come face-to-face this soon. I knew it was going to happen, and not too far into the season, but I expected maybe 2 more episodes or something before it would happen. It's like, wow, this just happened really quick. We also meet the girl who's in the opening and outro, and apparently her name is Eri. And Overhaul refers to her as his daughter, but I don't know how true that is. It does seem like there's an abusive relationship one way or the other there, though. So that's interesting in and of itself. Eri was begging Izuku not to let go and everything, and he was trying to protect her. Izuku could not just let it go because he's a hero, and even though Mirio was kind of thinking to himself, please stop, Deku, please don't do this. He couldn't let go. He couldn't do that. It goes against everything he believes in and everything he sees a hero to be. And honestly, if this were like All Might and MightEye doing this patrol or whatnot, like in the past, I think it would go the same way with All Might doing that and MightEye basically thinking in his head, please stop this. I definitely think that this is kind of a comparison to that in a way. I see Mirio kind of like taking a lot of MightEye's ideals and everything, while Deku obviously takes a lot from All Might himself. So if they, because Eri won't let go of Izuku and all, they start to follow him into the alleyway. He's like, Overhaul's leading them somewhere. And then we see Overhaul start to remove his glove. And it's like that moment, it's like, oh shit. Because we saw in episode 2 what he can do, what his quirk is. His quirk is terrifying. Like, let's actually talk about that for a moment, because I don't remember if I talked about that in the episode 2 afterthoughts. There are certain quirks in this world, in My Hero Academia, that are just legitimately scary, like much more so than anything else. Like, you would think like, oh, this guy can like control and shoot fire out of him. It's like, oh, that's kind of freaky. But it's like, I mean, that's a superpower. It's like you hear about that kind of thing. But then you have something like Shigaraki who can decay like organic material right down to like making your flesh chip and fall away like he did with Aizawa's elbow and shit. And it's like, holy shit, that's freaky. Like, it's a superpower technically, but it's a scary one. And now you have Overhaul, who could just apparently scratch you and make you blow up. Just blow the fuck up. And with the way it's presented so far in this series, it's shown to be quite terrifying. I mean, in episode 2, he does it against Big Sis Mag, and we see her just completely blow up. We see her skin like starts to bubble and everything first. It looks like like something's like, how do I put it? Like she's starting to break out in a way, and then she blows up, and we see it in episode 4 here too, where it's like there's the one guy. It's like, oh, sorry, sir, I didn't mean to let Eri get away and stuff, and then it's like, and it happens so suddenly. It's just you see him like reach out for the guy, and then it's like he just blows up, and it's like in a second you see that it's like Overhaul and the other guy are just continuing to walk along as if nothing happened. The way these moments are shot, the way that they're presented, are terrifying. It really sells his quirk as something that's legitimately just outright scary. And the fact that he and Shigaraki are having this connection in a way, that they're kind of having differences of opinion, and there's the consideration of them possibly working together and shit. It's like the idea of both of their quirks being used together, like, holy shit. They have the 2 scariest quirks in this series by far. It's like, we don't want them working together. Not with quirks like that. But yeah, so we see Overhaul start to remove his glove, and Eri notices this. And she's like, nope, and runs over to him because she knows that he's basically threatening to kill Mirio and Deku. So she runs over to Overhaul to protect them. And Mirio noticed this as well, and so he holds Deku back, and they just stay back as Overhaul and Eri leave. Yeah, it's just like, holy shit. Overhaul is probably one of, if not the most popular villain of the series. I do know that. I've seen all kinds of people, like, for honestly a couple years now, raving over him. I've seen cosplays of him all the time. I've seen a lot of different fan art of his. He is super fucking popular. Super fucking popular. And it's like, I can see why. He has a presence about him that is just amazing. Like his presence, the way he carries himself, his attitude, his personality, just everything is so perfectly villainous. It's so just scary that it makes him stand out. Not to mention the entire, pun intended, quirk of him being a germaphobe is really fitting to his design with the plague mask and all, which I love. I love that idea. Having a villain who's a germaphobe and having the plague mask aesthetic. That's a really fun concept. So that makes him stand out as well. But yeah, his presence definitely, the way his scenes come upon, like when he first appears in episode 3 here, to Izuku, we see him just kind of step out of the shadows. The way the moment is shot, like kind of looking up at him with this, he has this intimidating presence to him in the way it's like drawn and animated and everything. It's good. It's good. And the way in episode 4 when they're talking and everything at points where he's acting very casual, like I assume the one point where his eyes are like the half circle and all, I assume he's smiling under the mask and everything, which actually makes it creepier. So it's like, ooh, this is good. So yeah, I really love what they're doing with him, and I can definitely see the hype behind him right now. I can definitely see why people really like him. But either way, so Mirio and Deku report to Night Eye and Bubble Girl, and they talk about it and everything. And Night Eye is definitely more on the side of holding back and analyzing. He's super analytical, and he wants to kind of not rush into things like, honestly, like All Might or Deku normally would. So we see them just kind of have to move on, but all of this starts to take its toll on Deku. He can't concentrate on classes or anything, which starts to make him uncharacteristically bad at everything he's doing. So, like I noticed that, like when Aizawa has to rescue him from the water and shit, like you see 13 off to the side there, and she has this like confused ass look on her face. I know it's hard to tell with 13 just because of how she looks and all, but you could tell like with the eyes emote still. So it's like what's happening here? They're noticing something's clearly wrong. So I like that. So he does end up confronting All Might, and that's where we hear the backstory and everything. How Night Eye didn't want All Might to continue being a hero after his big injury 6 years in the past. How Night Eye wanted him to retire then and there. And Nezu even at that point was suggesting, oh, look at my students, you can find a successor. And it's like, that's interesting that even 6 years in the past, the successor idea, as I mentioned in the reaction, it's interesting that that was a concept that had been on All Might's mind for that long. Well, and it makes sense. It's like, it's not like surprising. It's just interesting that they brought that up. We also find out that, according to Sir Night Eye's prediction, All Might is going to die within the current year or the next year, in terms of the time frame of where the show's at right now. But there is a slight margin for error, and it is possible, I guess, to go against that, for that to end up being proven false. But it's like not going to be easy, because it's apparently the further in time that Sir Night Eye looks with his quirk, the less accurate it gets, which makes a lot of sense, and I actually really like that. The closer it is, like if you looked 1 year into the future or whatnot with his foresight quirk, compared to 10 years, yeah, the 1 year is going to be more accurate because it's closer, because the events that would lead up to that are more in there's less of them. There's less that leads up to it, and as such, there's less margin for error, less margin for changes. But when you're looking much, much further into the future, there's a lot more that has to be considered with that. And it shows that his quirk, his foresight, isn't perfect. That it's not like that it can be false, or it can be at least changed or whatever if it's looked further in. So that's interesting. But we also see how intensely through these episodes that MightEye cares for All Might. He, like when he said, "I still love and respect him," he meant that. He does love All Might. Not in a romantic sense, of course, but he loves him as he cares that deeply for him. And that's why they're separated right now. That's why they had to kind of leave each other's side. Because he cares so much for All Might, and we saw that with All Might's injury and everything in the flashback, he could not rightfully stand by when he thought All Might was doing something that would, well, lead to his death. He didn't want to see that happen to All Might. He didn't want to see people suffer. He didn't want to see All Might suffer because he cares that deeply about him. He's honestly just as much, if not more, of an All Might fanboy than Deku is. In fact, I would actually say that he's not a fanboy per se. I would say that MightEye, one, is a friend because of the obvious reasons, because they were literally friends and partners and everything, who got along and worked together amazingly, as was pointed out. But I would consider them to have been, obviously not as much in the current day, but have been extremely emotionally close. Like, not just friends, but like best friends kind of thing. Like, it's kind of talked about in the movie and everything how David Shield was very, very fucking close to All Might. But even David didn't know certain things about the quirk and everything. MightEye knew everything. MightEye still knows everything. MightEye is very deeply emotionally invested in All Might's life. And I truly believe All Might cares deeply for him, too. And I think that's why their split is honestly a little tragic. The fact that they care this much about each other, and it's made very clear through these episodes, while at the same time the fact that they chose to separate from each other because of their disagreement here, it just shows how much they care for each other, as well as shows that they're willing to stay away from each other. And even for the most part, just not even be in contact pretty much at all, because of how different their views on this are. Because MightEye cares so deeply for All Might that seeing All Might have continued to do hero work for those 6 years after his injury from his battle with All For One, it hurt him emotionally. You saw how emotional he got over that. He was hurting. He was trying to physically hold All Might back, because he was hurting seeing his friend like that. And you saw like how All Might had reacted when Deku initially brought Sir MightEye up to him about the work study. And you're seeing it a lot more in this episode 4 here. You can tell All Might has that deep love and care for MightEye as well. Hell, I could honestly see people shipping these two. I could very much see that, and honestly, I could get behind that. Because there is, honestly, with how close it very much tells us they are and shows us that they are, there is shipping fuel for these two. And I think it would fit. They make it so that Horikoshi, obviously with the manga and all, I assume was the same way, made them very much this close to where they are like, they would normally be inseparable, but it's because of how close they were, how much they cared for each other. Like I said, the reason that they separated. I just really like that. Because even if it's not necessarily presented in a romantic sense, the fact that this series is showing two male characters who are big heroes, who are like kind of seen as these big icons in society, these big parts of society, the fact that they are being shown to be this emotionally close to each other, it's actually really cool. Because a lot of shows, a lot of games, a lot of just people in general would be against that kind of thing. Would say, like, oh, because the entire male thing about, oh, guys can't show their emotions that much and can't be that emotionally close to other guys. It's not right. It's not okay. It's gay. Shit like that. Which is bullshit, obviously, but it's just like, to have that shown in here, like, they are very fucking emotionally close. To have that shown in here is powerful. And they didn't make a big deal out of it or anything. It was just like, that's just how they are. They just legitimately care about each other that much. You had this guy who started out as just an All Might fan, who got to become his sidekick, and became, as All Might put it, the brains behind the operation. The two grew so close, became such good friends, became so emotionally attached to each other, that their breakup and everything, it's like, that was hard to watch. Again, seeing Sir MightEye try to hold All Might back while basically on the verge of tears, because he cared about him that much, he didn't want to see him get hurt or die and everything. Yeah, that's sad. I really love it, though, because it's good writing, it's good characterization. So yeah, it's just like that really was just fantastically done. I just really appreciated that. These two episodes, though, were great. I know I've been talking for a long time on them, but there was quite a bit to talk about. These were two very good episodes and continue to prove why this show is one of the best anime of all time, in my opinion. And definitely one of my all-time favorites. But tell me in the comments below what you thought of these episodes of My Hero Academia, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and thank you so much for tuning into today's video. If you want to check out any of my social media links and more, please check them out over to the side. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please leave those down below. In the meantime, though, thank you so much once again for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.